Welcome back to my DevLog series documenting the progress on my game Gradient. I've had a productive few weeks, so we'll just dive right into what I've learned and some of the updates I've made. Different sounds have tags, so things like music, dialogue, and sound effects can be independently adjusted in the settings menu. Unreal has a tagging feature built into sounds, so the implementation was pretty trivial once I knew where to go. I fixed a number of bugs that I found from playing the game at different frame rates. Any video, or video game in this case, is really just a sequence of still images played fast enough to trick our brain into interpreting it as motion. The standard measurement for frame rate is frames per second, and describes just that, how many still images are displayed each second. The majority of movies run at 24 frames per second, standard television is broadcasted at 29.97 frames per second, but when it comes to games, there's no standard. But as a rule of thumb, the more frames per second, the better. To see just what I'm talking about, here's Gradient running at 5 frames per second, 15 FPS, 30, and 60. The higher the frame rate, the smoother the movement. Also, the time it takes for an input from the controller to translate to what you see on screen is reduced as the frame rate gets higher. We're talking about fractions of seconds, but the time makes a difference for how responsive a character feels. Specifically for Gradient, the issues I had were a number of features were running off of frame rate. Specifically something called delta time, which is the length of time each still image is displayed on screen. The more frames per second, the smaller the delta time. So the way the camera dynamically pulls in and out as Hugh moves and stops, the aim sensitivity when using a mouse, the speed at which the auto aim snaps to its target, and how quickly Hugh heals over time were all tied to that delta time. This resulted in the faster the frame rate, the more often these functions were called. This poses a clear issue. For instance, the faster the frame rate, the faster he would heal over time, giving a clear advantage to anyone that has a more powerful computer. I was able to correct this by taking the values that drive these functions and dividing them by delta time. Now, no matter the frame rate, the game runs these functions consistently over time. I've also implemented the basics of a save load system. Right now, it tracks aspects specific to Hugh, like the location on the map, what abilities he's unlocked, the playtime, and the total kill count. I had been dreading getting this added as I thought it was going to be a nightmare to organize and get working consistently, but Unreal has many features built in that made it really easy. The biggest challenge I've had was adding a screenshot when saving. I still haven't figured out how to keep the post-process effects active for the screenshot, but it's not a big priority for me right now. In terms of gameplay changes, the ranged enemies now have the ability to dodge roll when Hugh's targeting them. This has made them a bigger challenge and feel much smarter. I'm getting very close to having all of Hugh's abilities in a place that I'm happy with, and I think pretty soon I'll be able to dedicate most of my time in creating more enemy variety and behaviors. I have a number of enemy types that I want to add and a bunch of ideas for mini bosses and bosses, so please stay tuned. For Hugh specifically, I've also added the ability to dodge roll. He has a number of iframes during the animation that really come in handy. Hugh's primary and secondary fire abilities now have a shared ammo count and an active reload system. After a short time of not firing, ammo auto-regenerates, but if empty, pressing fire initiates an active reload. As the progress bar fills, if you press the fire button when it's in the center, the mag fully reloads. If you press too early or too late, it forces you to wait until the reload fully completes. The majority of the feedback I got on my last video was the green super was the most interesting mechanically, and I feel I have to rethink the red and yellow super so that they're on par with the gravity well. So I went back to the drawing board on red, and I believe I've come up with a much better idea. When activated, enemies within a set distance are targeted. When Hugh fires, the projectile will get a random enemy in the array, and the projectile will arc towards them. This already looks a lot better, even with the placeholder effects. It also still falls in line with my goals for red. This ability is great at taking out a large group, while also being effective if there's only one target in range. Again, a big thanks to the artists, Act of Kindness and Sleepy Visions, for the music here in the background. You can hear more from them on your streaming platform of choice, and I've left a link to their SoundCloud page in the description. Thank you for watching here to the end, and please give a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.